channel, and so I have another video for us to watch. This is Putin gives Tanzanian students a place to stay and clothes to change. Now, I'm reading this, but I'm also thinking about how Africans and Indians had been mistreated as they fled Ukraine to the Polish border, and how they were pushed back. Some had to stand outside 3 and 4 days in the freezing cold with no food. And in fact, the Indian students, many of them, were beaten by Ukrainian law enforcement because they're trying to cross the border to freedom. And of course, we know that this is well documented and has been confirmed by major news outlets. MSNBC, CNN. MSNBC was the first one that I saw. And you have several other news outlets that reported on it and even have interviewed these students. And thankfully, God's grace abound, and many of those students are back home in their own countries from Africa and India. So this is a video that I'd like to see. Now, this video, and I have to give credit where credit is due, this is from African Diaspora News Channel, you see right here. And this is the beginning of the report here. And so let's see what's going on. Let's look.
Hello fam, welcome back to the African Diaspora News Channel. I'm Ungil Zalalem bringing you this report. Today's report is about Tanzanian students that were fleeing from Ukraine, reaching Russia, and actually being given a place to stay, clothes to change, and they are being taken care of until humanitarian aid or the corners of these borders to open up for them to leave for their countries.
Praise the
Let's
Lord.
read this clip from Africa News. We'll come back and discuss.
A group of Tanzanian students fleeing the conflict.
So this is Africa News reporting.
In Russia. Students were studying at Sumy State University in northeastern Ukraine when the fighting broke out. The city lies about 48 kilometers from the border with Russia.
We start because it involved both going by car and on foot. Yes. So we started our journey by car from our hostel in Sumy to somewhere where we dropped you off. Then we started walking. Then in the middle of the journey we took another car to somewhere with the last car that we traveled with, and we started again walking up to border to the border.
Okay.
A group of 11 students were given shelter at the Cursed State Medical University in Russia while they await for help from the Tanzanian embassy. 11 students of Sumy University arrived at night, students from Tanzania. We welcomed them and took to the hostel number 4 of our university, the Cursed Medical University.
Thank you, sir.
We washed, changed clothes, we gave them food, provided a place to sleep, and a paramedic.
I found it interesting that Russia is helping African students, not just Tanzanians. This report is about Tanzanians, but there are Nigerians and other African students that are reaching Russia, and Russia is actually like, come, welcome, let's give you a place to stay. They are actually dedicating their university of medicine for them to stay in those dorm rooms until they get help and they leave for their country. So it is interesting how things are being handled. In Ukraine, the African students are being treated like they're less than human, and they're not being given a seat at the bus or the train to, escape the situation.
Wow.
But when Africans are fleeing to Russia and Russian borders, they're actually being treated better than in Ukraine. I'm still really surprised by Russia welcoming these students, but we'll keep you updated. It's a bit bizarre because of all the situations that have transpired and we've reported on the discrimination and racism black people in general have faced in Ukraine. So now for Russia to receive African students and actually treat them with dignity, it's a bit surprising. Anyways, fam, let us know down below what your thoughts are about this. I'm Ongil Zalalam. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Thank you, Ms. Zalalam. Beautiful name. So that's the story. That's the latest report. And so, I mean, Russians, those who have common sense, you know that these African and Indian students and people of color in Ukraine are not responsible for any political situation or environment in Ukraine. So why bother them? I mean, what's the point? They have nothing to do with that. They are there because they're in Ukraine because they want to get an education. Many of them are going through medical programs and higher professional degrees, and they have nothing to do with the political environment, social or economic in Ukraine. So why bother them? So you see them coming across the border. It's humane to reach out and help them. Now, I've heard both sides where, in the past, Russia has been not very accommodating and welcoming to people of color. I've heard that. But recently, there are Africans living in Russia now, not very many, but the report I saw last week is they are not necessarily experiencing racism or prejudice. Now, granted, Russia's a huge place. Like 150 million people, something like that. You're going to have those individuals who are not going to like Africans, or in some situations, they're not going to like Europeans, period, in their country. You're going to see racism and discrimination because racism and discrimination does not stop at any border. Okay, racism and discrimination is all over the world, unfortunately. But this right here, it doesn't surprise me that much because I've read recent reports and I've seen recent videos of black people in Russia who are saying that they love it. Just the same thing with I saw a group of black folks in Shanghai, China. They absolutely love it. And so it depends. Everyone's experience and situation is different, right? So, I wouldn't discount one way or the other because people have their own lives, their own experiences. But this is interesting when you juxtapose it with what happened in Ukraine, which is what the young lady was talking about, being pushed off trains, not allowed to take personal cars with other Ukrainians into Poland because they're black. Reaching the Polish border, Ukrainian-Polish border, and, you see Polish people with signs up saying, I'll take you to your embassy, what have you. But then there are stories where black folks approach those individuals. They were denied. They were not allowed to get into the cars. So I'm glad for the most part, all of the reporting that's been done on the racism by CNN, by MSNBC, by WEON, and different other news outlets. I'm glad to hear that it has subsided. Of course, it helps when you have the African Union writing letters and condemning the racism in Ukraine, and then all of a sudden, foreign minister in Ukraine and others say, hey, we're going to treat black folks the same as everyone else. They are our friends. They're simply trying to flee a bad situation as well. I even saw with my own eyes video of Indian students beaten up by Ukrainian, and I think it was Ukrainian, Ukrainian law enforcement on the border. Crazy times we live in, but I thank God that these Russians are assisting, and she said even Nigerians, African students in general, maybe even some Indians there in Russia now. I don't know, but in crazy times, crazy things happen. But the racism, that's just intolerable. That should never happen. Never happen. It's terrible, no matter how you look at it. It's just terrible, and I won't go deep into that. But we all know it's wrong. You can't come up with an excuse. I mean, there's no excuse for racism. You treat people the way they want to be treated. and that's the end of it. Because guess what? One day it could be you, and if you mistreat people like that, one day it will be you. Because in this life, you reap what you sow. Anyway, I'm Red. That's my nickname. That's what everybody calls me usually. And thank you for watching my channel, watching this video. And I'll have more. And so I hope you enjoyed it. Take care and peace out.